Blessed greetings. What's up, everybody? Stagger, aka Red Rope, tapping in with you one time on another beautiful Friday, man. How you doing, man? How you doing out there, man? I'm doing. I'm doing okay. I can. You know. Everybody have their own little issues and what's not, but I'm all right. I hope you're doing well. So, anyways, man, we back again for another broadcast, and today we're talking about the limit of age in music. Is there a limit? I know in rap they try to say there's a limit, but yeah, that's what we're talking about today. So one of the first persons that I realize people be always trying to give a hard time when it comes to his age and doing music is Jim Jones. And I don't know, like people be always in his comments and saying he's too old and saying all these things about him. I think that people are just looking at, because he rocks his gray hair. He don't die. He don't dye his gray hair like a lot of other people do. He just lets it rock out. He's natural. So people probably looking at that and thinking, oh, he looks old. Cause there's a lot of rappers that's not young rappers that's not in better shape than Jim Jones. Jim Jones works out all the time and is in very good shape for his age. I think I think he like 50 50 years old. So I think he's pretty much a middle-aged man, but he's working out every day. And I think that one of the things about him is that he got a late start when he came to the music thing. Like he was in Dipset, of course, doing his thing, but I don't think like him himself took off with the music thing till a little bit later. Common Mace probably was, taking off early, like at like 2021. And Jim, of course, he took a longer time to take off in terms of like his career and in terms of like putting out solo songs and all that. He took off a little bit later. So I think that people get sometimes like a little bit like confused about what he's doing, why he's still doing it. I just feel like Jim feel like he never really got a shot like that. You know what I mean? Like he never really got his turn in the music business. I know he had a big hit with Ballin'. I remember, that was a big song back, I think like what year was that? Like back in like '09 or something. But yeah, like I think he was having a good success with that song, and that was his first like major hit, and he was already in his 30s when that happened. So he got a late start. Common them was already famous 10 years prior to that. Like they were big 10 years prior to that, and he was just a crew member in a sense, and he finally took off with his career later. So I do feel like that's one of the reasons why he's still here doing what he's doing. And I've listened to some of his tracks and I think he's pretty good actually. He's gotten better over time. But yeah, people always give him a hard time, and it leads me to wonder like, why do people feel like you shouldn't be doing music at a certain age? Like why? I mean, if you're still good at it and you sound good still, I say keep going. You know what I'm saying? If you're still good at it. Like if somebody's really like out of it, they lost it, they ain't really saying much anymore, they're not giving you anything to really talk about or listen to, I say they just should pack it up. Because look, we have some artists that took off recently who's around late 30s, 40s, maybe early 40s. The Griselda crew. The whole Griselda crew is, you could say, late 30s, early 40s type of age. And they're pretty good. You know what I mean? They're pretty good. So I don't feel like there really should be an age limit. It just should be an age limit to what you're doing and what you're saying, maybe. Because some people are still talking about stuff that teenagers can relate to. And it just don't sound too good for 40 something years old rappers to be talking about teenage activities. It just doesn't sound good. I mean, when I go in, I'm in my 40s, and when I go in to make music, I don't think about any teenage stuff. Like, I'll be thinking about like grown man shit. Like, what would a grown man be doing it? So basically, I'm making grown folk music, to be honest. So for me personally, I make grown folk music. But a lot of times, one of the reasons why certain music don't pop off is because you might find like an artist is making music that's out of his age range. You know what I mean? So if a grown artist is making music out of his age range, then people gonna listen to it and say, "Man, you're too old for that." You know what I mean? So that's where the lines sometimes get blurred. You know, when they start making music that's not, it's like, yo, how old are you, man? Why you making why you saying these things right now at this age? Because I think like in certain genres, it's very like hard for you once you hit a certain age. Like let's say like in rap, in dancehall, and in pop to a certain extent, once you get to a certain age, it's like bye-bye time. Because I feel like a lot of the main audience of those particular genres, pop, rap, and dancehall, are young people. It's music made by the youth for the youth. So it's like these people are making music for their peers who's like 21 and 22. So it's unrelatable to anybody in their 40s and 50s. You know what I'm saying? And the majority of the crowd, the people that follow those genres, are young people. So that's why a lot of times the mature artists just don't connect. You know what I mean? Because just like how when you get older and your fans get older, your fans become busy people too. They become fathers, mothers. They got to go to work. They got stuff to do. They're married, and they just don't listen to the music like they used to. Like you got older, they got older too. So unless you can achieve newer fans who's still young, then you're just last year's news in a sense. So for me, I see it as dancehall, rap, and pop has an age limit to it. They do. They have an age limit to it. And there's a few exceptions to the rules. A couple of artists that people say, well, we'll look at this person, we'll look at that person. This person is 40 something, this person is this age. But that's just an exception to the rule. Like you might have Vibes Cartel, who's probably around 50 years, and he's still hot in dancehall right now. And probably like Buju Banton and Bounty Killer. But you gotta understand that people are more attracted to those guys' story more so than them being older. They're more attracted to their stories. They were incarcerated in America for, well, not Vibes Cartel. Vibes Cartel was incarcerated in Jamaica, but Buju Banton was incarcerated in America for like a decade or something. And Vibes Cartel was incarcerated in Jamaica for like 13 years or something. So people kind of like want to tap back into to them and hear their story. What was it like in there? Like, and just seeing like them going from prison to going back out on top of the charts to taking over again. It's kind of like a beautiful thing to watch. And then you have people like Jay-Z and Snoop and stuff. And I do feel like people support Snoop to a certain extent. Like they like to hear Snoop on a feature, but if Snoop does an album, you don't see like a big support for it because he just did an album and nobody was really like rushing in and picking it up and promoting it like that. And then you got 50 Cent. I feel like if he does music, people will check it out. I feel like that. And then they have Nas to a certain extent, but these guys are exceptions to the rules. You know what I'm saying? Not a majority of older artists have that type of success. So definitely in rap, definitely in pop, definitely in dancehall, there is an age barrier. There is an age barrier. Like as long as you start hitting that threshold of like 30, 35, people stop kind of like, checking you out like that. I mean, like we have Drake and Kendrick, who who's in their late 30s, and they running the game right now. But like I said, there's always exceptions to the rules. So you're gonna have a couple of guys. Um, those guys are kings in their own rights of the genre. So you had a couple of guys who's gotten up there in age, and they're still able to have like a great impact on the game. But for the most part, most of us who are getting older, most of us who are, up there like 40 plus, we're not going to have that kind of success like these guys. And remember, these guys have been in the game since they were young. They're not just showing up. Like if you didn't have any impact in the game earlier on, then it's going to be hard for you to have any impact later on as you get older. You just don't have that type of energy like them young bulls. No, you don't have that type of energy. Like these young guys are out in the studio all night till the morning. They're doing 6 and 7 songs in one night. They got different ways of bringing the music to the people. They're up with the latest technology that's out right now. They're just doing a lot of things that the older artists are not doing. So the older artists are not going to have the same impact as these young guys at all in no time. So all those things adds in to why there's an age limit. You know what I mean? All those things add in energy. You know what I mean? Like, do you have that type of energy to show up every night on tour and understanding modern day technology, understanding how to use social media, how to use AI, how to use a lot of modern day technology. Those things mean a lot. Looking good. You know what I'm saying? Looking good. You know what I mean? Like having a good appearance when you're out there. Maybe, the girls see some gray hairs in your beard and they're like, nah, he old. You know what I mean? So all these things, all these things add up in terms of like why there's an age barrier in music. It's not the same in every genre, because like certain, like, you could be in like reggae. You could be in reggae and you could have a long career and do reggae till you're like 75 or something, as long as you still can do it. It's not like that in every genre. In certain parts of like country western and certain parts of like pop rock and stuff, like you could kind of just do those music for years and years and years. But when it comes to rap, dancehall, and pop, you got to be young, fresh, and energized. So I do feel like there's an age limit. I know some people who's going to debate me on this one and say, "Oh man, they ain't no age limit. Just look at this person, that person, and this person." But those are just exceptions to the rules. Those are just the few that actually can have an impact as an older artist. Most of us don't have that type of impact. Like you could put out all the songs you want to put out. Like nobody care. People will choose what's hot and what's current. And hip hop is all about what's hot and what's current. That's what hip hop is. What's the latest style? What's the latest drum beat that people are riding over right now? You know what I mean? Like, what's the latest fashion that people are wearing right now? You know what I mean? What's the latest slangs that people are using right now? That's what a lot of the modern current hip hop is. Like, it's not just a genre where you could tell a cool story like in country western and stuff. You could tell a cool story and people won't really so much look at how old you are and all that stuff. People might just be like, man, I like this song and I like the story. So it's a little different. So rap is all about current, what's going on right now today, what's happening tomorrow. That's what rap is. So if you're not coming through with those latest styles fresh. So sometimes I often think about what's his Andre 3000. I often think about what he was saying when he spoke about like getting older and rap. He did have a point. He did have a point. A lot of people might not know this, but rap is a sport. It's a sport. And in all sports, the younger people are always faster. They might not be smarter, they might be dumb, but they usually are faster and like just more current. And that happens in rap too. As much as we like to feel like it's something that you just got to go on the mic and do, yeah, but you got to really be on your P's and Q's and every little letter. You got to be on all your letters when it comes to rap. Rap is not a genre where you could just drag your foot and think that you're going to make any impact. You have to be amazing to do. Not and even if you might feel like somebody is not amazing, they might have a certain thing that moves their audience that you might not find impressive, but it's there. So yeah, rap is like that. But I would love to hear people's thoughts on this, because a lot of people like to say that age don't matter. You know what I mean? People like to say that a lot. No, age don't matter. But I beg to differ. Age matters a lot in music, and it matters for a lot of different reasons. You know what I mean? It matters for a lot of reasons that you might not even be thinking about. You might not even be thinking about why age matters in music, but it does. And I can see it. As much as people want to say it doesn't, you can see the evidence is there. You can see how people try to like troll older artists when they're still doing music, when they're still doing certain things. They try to say, "Oh, ain't you like this age? Ain't you like that age?" So you know that it does matter to people. But a lot of people like to make it seem like it doesn't matter. Like any old artist could just take up the mic and start doing their thing and they're gonna have an impact. I don't think so. I think age matters, and it's a serious thing for people that's listening and consuming music. They want the latest and most current and most popping thing that's happening right now. That's what they're trying to listen to. They're trying to listen to the latest styles, the latest beats, the latest sounds, the latest slangs, and all that. So it does matter to a certain extent how old you are. Do you want to keep up with these things? Do you want to be out late at night? Do you want to be on stage at 3 a.m. for the next month? Like, all these things matter when you get to a certain age. And yeah, so it comes down to like, it comes down to how old you are. You're going to need that energy. All right, man. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I would love to hear what you think about this. And that's my broadcast for today, man. You was listening to Dagger, aka Red Robe, White Tip Podcast, White Tip YouTube channel. All right, man. Peace, one love. Have a great weekend.